Hey, Brian, do they still have a box over there for paper, excess paper?
Miss Denny, you may begin whenever you're ready.
You know, all I'm seeing on my screen is just the picture of the building, and it just says Board of Adjustment. So that's why I haven't started. I don't know. I think I'm in the right place. I've done it before, but can you hear me?
That's what's on our screen as well, Miss Denny.
Oh, okay. I get it. Okay. All right. Well, then, everyone, good evening and welcome to the Kent County Board of Adjustment for December 17th, 2020. We're going to call this meeting to order. Will you call the roll, please?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Cusick?
Here.
Mr. Carlson?
Here.
Mr. Jenkins?
Here.
Miss Hudson?
Here.
Miss Denny?
Here.
Vote shows 5 present and 2 absent. We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. So will you introduce the staff?
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening. My name is Jamie Fensky. I'm one of the planners here at Kent County Levy Court. I also have with me planner Scott Blair and our legal counsel for the evening, Fred Townsend.
Okay, so at this time I'm just going to ask those who can to rise, and we'll pledge allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, any additions or alterations to the agenda?
No, ma'am.
Okay, well then, introduce the public hearing, please.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jamie Fensky, and I'll preside as the hearing officer for tonight's public hearing. This hearing is being conducted for the purpose of providing the citizens of the county an opportunity to present testimony on these applications and the appeal before the Kent County Board of Adjustment. Everyone will have an opportunity to speak. This will provide those who wish an opportunity to give their testimony. If there is a group of interested citizens in favor or opposed to any of the applications, they may wish to elect one spokesperson among them to present testimony to the board. There is an official recording of these proceedings being made. Therefore, we ask that only one person speak at a time and that they speak clearly. Furthermore, there should be no cross-examination of witnesses permitted during the public hearing. but the board can ask the applicant questions after any opposition if necessary. As a courtesy to other participants in this hearing, a maximum of 5 minutes will be allotted to any person who wishes to provide testimony. The chairperson of the board has the discretion to allow additional time if deemed to be necessary. To make statements when your application is called, and for the record, please give your name, address, and allow our attorney to swear you in prior to providing testimony. Copies of any written statements or exhibits used during the hearing should be presented for identification so that they may be included in the permanent record. The procedure on each variance application will be as follows. The legal notice will be read on each case prior to the receipt of testimony. There will be a brief explanation of an application by the staff. The board will then receive testimony from all of those in favor of the application, followed by testimony of those who may be opposed. Once those persons in favor and those in opposition have had an opportunity to speak, the hearing on that application will be declared closed. Decisions on all applications heard this evening will be made by the board during the business meeting following the public hearing. However, you are not required to remain after the public hearing once your request has been heard and closed. During the business meeting, the board will consider all information of record. A common vote of 4 members of the board shall be required to make a decision on each application. If you do not wish to wait for the business meeting later this evening, you may call Kent County Planning Department tomorrow between 8 and 5 p.m. at 744-2471 or check the Kent County Planning Department website to learn of the board's ruling. All applicants will receive written notification of the board's decision. This may not be mailed until after the next scheduled meeting, but if approved, you are welcome to apply for the necessary permits prior to receiving this by mail. Please keep this decision in your records for both you and all future property owners. The public notice of this evening's hearing was published on November 30th, 2020 in the Delaware State News. In addition, all the subject properties were posted with a sign prior to the hearing to further notify the public of the nature of the applications. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. At this time, we are going to have a statement by counsel, the purpose of which is to help those who wish to give testimony this evening an understanding of what is and is not acceptable as testimony before this particular body. Mr. Townsend?
Thank you, Ms. Denny. The test for the granting of area variances is set forth by the Delaware Supreme Court in the case known as Board of Adjustment versus Quick Check Realty. The standard applied is whether strict application of zoning regulations results in exceptional practical difficulties of ownership. To determine whether the exceptional practical difficulty test is met, the board must consider the following 4 factors. First, the nature of the zone where the property lies. Second, the character and uses of the immediate vicinity. Third, whether removal of the restriction on the applicant's property would seriously affect neighboring properties. And fourth, whether failure to remove the restriction would create unnecessary hardship or exceptional practical difficulty for the owner in relation to the owner's efforts to make normal improvements to the property. This is the factor that's satisfied only when the difficulties alleged by the owner are practical rather than theoretical and exceptional rather than routine. Note that the inability to improve one's business or to stay competitive as a result of area limitations may qualify as a legitimate exceptional practical difficulty. And it's here where the board considers whether the applicant is seeking more than is minimally necessary to relieve the asserted difficulty. In general, the board is not permitted to consider factors other than the 4 I listed. So those speaking both in support of and in opposition to applications are urged to present only information bearing directly on the 4 factors, which again, stated briefly, are number 1, the zoning district, number 2, the character of the immediate vicinity, third, the effect on neighboring properties, and lastly, whether the applicant faces exceptional practical difficulties of ownership. In particular, presenters are instructed to exclude from their presentations any discussion of personal disputes or acrimony between the applicant and neighboring property owners, as the board is both unable and unauthorized to resolve those. Presenters must limit their remarks to those factors, those issues the board can decide. Ms. Denny, that completes my statement.
Thank you, Mr. Townsend. So at this point, we're ready to begin the public hearing.
We have application A-20-40, Love Drives LLC. Owner of the property is S&R Properties LLC. Is anyone present to present the application? Thank you, sir. You can stay seated. Okay. If you just want to stay seated while we go over the exhibits, and then our attorney will swear you in. Sorry. So we have Love Drives LLC. They are seeking a variance from the requirement that a child care facility have an outdoor play area of at least 50 square feet per child to operate a child care facility. It's currently in a shopping center suite that's vacant. They are looking to fill that, actually 2 suites, I believe, with the daycare. Well, 3 suites. It's in the 3rd Levy Court District, and it's located at the intersection of Salt Creek Drive and North DuPont Highway, specifically the shops at Fieldstone Village Shopping Center, north of Dover. You'll see in blue the approximate location of the daycare. It would be proposed 4,200 square feet. And the variance is from the requirement that a daycare have an outdoor play area of at least 50 square feet. They're asking for an absolute relief of that. Here's the floor plan of the proposed daycare. The location site looking right at the suites there. Looking down the road. On the other side of the corner and towards the highway. This is the approximate location of the suites and the aerial. All right, Mr. Lieberman, if you will go to the podium and allow our attorney to swear you in, please state your name and address for the record.
Name and address for the record, sir.
My name is Doug Lieberman with Larson Engineering, 910 South Chapel Street, Newark, Delaware.
Okay, did we get that? Yep. Okay. Sir, do you solemnly swear the testimony you give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please proceed.
All right, thank you. Board members, we're here today to talk about a 4,200 square foot daycare to be located at 96 Salt Creek Drive. As Jamie said, it's a 4,200 square foot daycare. And we are looking to provide an indoor play area that is compliant with the state of Delaware Department of Education requirements, as opposed to having an outdoor play area. Currently, Love Drives operates a daycare at College Park Shopping Center in Georgetown with a similar indoor play area as this site would have. That particular space is 4,859 square feet and has an indoor play area of 800 square feet. The state requirement for a play area of this center is 700 square feet. The Georgetown site is licensed to serve 58 children, ages 0 to 5, which is all similar to what we're proposing at the Shops of Fieldstone site. The proposed daycare has an indoor play area of 929 square feet at Shops of Fieldstone. If you go to the floor plan that we have, Jamie, oh yeah, there you go. Right in the center, we've got an indoor gym area of 929 square feet. You can see the classrooms are on the sides. Yeah, so that whole main area is a large open area for the kids to take turns with playtime in those spaces. Due to the significant and continuing impacts of COVID-19, there have been tremendous negative impact on retail-based tenants. However, the need for service-based businesses and daycare and educational services has increased, and as Kent County grows, it's going to be additionally needed. This particular site of the inline retail has had, over the past 5 years, has had 3 other tenants that have not rented more than 6 years. They're also, wait a second, sorry. The 2 tenants that have rented the space where the daycare is going to be have just recently failed. 3 other spaces within the shopping center have not been rented in the past 6 years. Allowing the daycare to use these spaces, the 3 spaces that they're taking, will address a community need and also provide stable tenancy within the shopping center. So if we look at the needs for the daycare itself, you're going to come in there, and given that the space is already essentially fit out, you've got bathrooms, and you just need to rehabilitate portions of it to get it into the configuration proposed. There's a significant savings to the tenants to rent this. If they were going to go and build a brand new facility for something this size, we'd probably be talking in the order of $750,000 plus by the time you start site acquisition, building, property, parking, all that stuff. In this case, you've already got the parking lot, you've already got the building, just need to fit out the interior. So it's a significant savings for a small group to come in and establish a daycare. If we start talking about the, as Jamie had mentioned and Mr. Townsend had mentioned, the specific response to the criteria for the variance. The nature of the zone where the property is located, the site is zone BGA business, and a daycare is an approved use within that business, so it's compliant in that criteria. Number 2, the character and uses of the immediate area. The site is commercial with other commercial uses to the south. Residents of Fieldstone Village, or an over 55 residential community, is located directly to the west side of the site. There are residential uses along Route 13 and north of the site off of Rose Bowl Road. So we're compliant in that area also. Number 3, whether removal of the restriction on the applicant's property would seriously affect the neighboring properties. The removal of the restriction will not affect the neighboring properties by granting the variance. We actually assert that the exact opposite of that will happen if we're required to comply with the exact standards, as it may negatively affect the adjoining property owners and most specifically the residents of Fieldstone Village. The residents of Fieldstone Village have shown support for actually granting the variance. I've got a letter from the Homeowners Association supporting granting the variance, because if we don't get the variance to have the indoor play space, we'll end up having to construct an outdoor play space. And the most likely area there's a small grass area behind the Redner's store that could be used for this area, but that puts it in closer proximity to the houses in Fieldstone Village, and that's not something that they were really looking for. So we want to try and avoid creating a nuisance for those residents. The State of Delaware Department of Education has also provided a letter supporting the use of the indoor play area. Number 4, whether failure to remove the restriction would create unnecessary hardship or exceptional practical difficulty for the property owner in relation to the owner's efforts to make normal improvements on the property. Economic hardship, standing alone, may justify granting an area variance in the inability to improve one's business or stay competitive as a result of the area limitations as a legitimate exceptional practical difficulty. The location of the outdoor play area is not in close proximity to the suite to be rented. If you take a look at the map that Jamie has there, there's, if you look at the Redner's, large Redner's store, There's a bump out on the back of the store, and directly behind that is yeah, there you go. There's a grass area that is large enough to accommodate the 2,900 square feet needed for an outdoor play space. But that outdoor play space is approximately 280 square feet, or is 280 feet from the daycare. So they would have to march the kids over to that area and back. And that's, when you start talking about that area, it's the back of the shopping center, it's the loading area for Redner's, it's the other service and loading area for the dollar store. So it's not exactly the safest thing, and I would say that the safety of the children is the exceptional practical difficulty in this case alone to be able to justify granting the variance. Again, the cost to establish an outdoor play area is approximately $50,000 if it's in that grass area. If we were to move it closer to the building and do it within the pave area, probably talking in the area of $78,000 or more. The owner's inability to maintain businesses within this portion of the shopping center is also an economic hardship. As previously stated, this portion of the center has turned over numerous times. I think part of the main recommendations within the Kent County report of a denial is that this could possibly set a precedent for future cases for daycares within the area. And we believe that this situation is unique because the site is located, we've got a building and parking area already there, unoccupied within the shopping center. The residents of the adjacent subdivision support granting the variance, and the state of Delaware Department of Education is allowing the indoor play area of the size that we're proposing, and given the provided activity programs that the daycare provides within the daycare. I have a list of letters. I believe I sent most of these to you. I can provide copies. We've got a letter from the Department of Education, Office of Child Care Licensing, that approves the space and the square footage to have an indoor play area. We've got an email chain from Patricia Toll and Ben Brown from the residences of Fieldstone Village supporting the indoor play area and granting of the variance. We've got a letter from Patricia Toll as Fieldstone Village HOA president supporting the variance. We've also got a list of, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 14 other centers where we've got daycares located within retail centers that are similar to this. And I think part of the unique aspect of asking for the variance is that Kent County is unique in their requirement of requiring outdoor space. So that kind of plays into this, especially with, we've got tenants with Love Drives that operate a facility like this in Georgetown with indoor space, and then they come here to Dover trying to establish something to serve the community, and it would essentially double their costs to get started just for having to require the indoor or the outdoor play space. And I also have a quick cost estimate that we did for what's necessary for establishing the outdoor play area. So I believe we've covered everything, covered the 4 tests of the Board of Adjustment criteria for unnecessary hardship. Kind of went over the uses with Love Drive and the site itself. So if you have any questions, I will try to give you some answers.
I guess.
Okay, so any of the board members have questions? Go ahead. Mr. Cross.
So I know you're not the owner, but I guess it's fair to say that with this indoor area, recreation area, that the kids, the children don't go out at all from that building during the
They
day?
do not. You have anybody from Love Drive? Rhonda? Yeah, all right, come on up. We've never met. I've been hired by Onyx. Here, go ahead. He can answer some questions for you.
Sorry, if you could introduce yourself, give us an address, and allow me to swear you in, please.
Okay.
Hello,
Okay,
everyone.
so I missed, excuse me, I missed some of that because fire engines are going madly by my house. So Mr. Lieberman is done?
Yeah.
Is that what I'm
Not completely.
Because I had-
Ms. Denny, I'm answering questions. Mr. Carlson wanted to have, answer some questions specific to the use, and we have the owner, Love Drives here.
Okay, so what we'll do is we'll ask questions of you, if you don't mind, and then we will allow the owner the opportunity to answer questions. So let's ask questions of the person who is sworn in giving testimony, because typically we wouldn't bring Mr. Lieberman back. So let's anybody who has questions of Mr. Lieberman, let's have those questions answered, and then we'll go to the next witness. So that said, Mr. Crossan, do you have any more questions of Mr. Lieberman?
No, I don't.
Does anybody else have questions of Mr. Lieberman?
Yes, I do. Can you,
Okay.
back to the floor
ahead.
plan, the indoor gym area, I'm not sure if you can answer this question or not, just let me know, cut me off. So the 929 square feet, can you identify what that area encompasses? Is it pretty much that whole,
It's that whole square area.
That whole square?
Rectangular area, yep.
it stops there?
I think it goes all the way back to the
Goes
back
all the way
line.
back.
Again,
All right, thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, so
Miss Denny.
I have.
Miss Denny, it's Fred Townsend. Could I ask a question or two?
Absolutely. I have questions myself. Feel free.
Thank you. Mr. Lieberman, you made mention, or you identified an area at the back of the overall parcel that is not well suited to the needs of the daycare, but is available to the daycare, is that right?
yes, it is.
At additional cost or no additional cost?
It is additional cost, and that's what I was getting to, the cost of establishing that play area in the back is approximately $50,000, because you're going to do, by the time you add the fencing, the play-safe mulch, a play structure out there, and then potentially jersey barriers along the curb line to protect the area from trucks that would go through there. I think you're easily $50,000. If we were to do it on a pave area that's closer, you're going to remove pave. And that adds another level of construction costs, and that was the $78,000 that I had mentioned.
Mr. Lieberman, could I ask you to pull that microphone a little closer, just so
Sure.
maybe Miss Denny can hear a little better? I think we
Now I'm
can.
having.
You were having some difficulty?
I was actually. I mean, I got most of it about, that they have access to it, but it would be extra cost, and I got all the, fencing, playscape stuff. So, but yeah, it's better if the mic is closer. Thank you.
Okay.
Right. So the cost is in the development of that area, not in additional rent, or did you mention that?
It's in the development of that area.
So that area is not devoted to any particular purpose right now?
It is not.
Have you, and this is a question as much for staff as yourself, but Is it your impression that the county zoning regulations require use of that area in addition to designating that area? If you follow my line of questioning?
You mean for the overall shopping center itself?
For the daycare. So if the daycare were to designate that area as play space available to the children in the daycare, does the county require, does the county zoning requirement require you to use that area?
No, they do not.
Okay. I don't know if staff.
But I think if you're going down the path, it's like, oh, okay, here's the area. If we would go through licensing with the state and say we have an outdoor play area, that they would still, I think, even though the Love Drives may not use that area, they may require that that area be brought up in the compliance. So you'd have to have the fencing, and you'd have to spend the money anyway, I believe.
And I'm not suggesting that you wouldn't have to expend the funds that you estimated. I'm just asking, to what extent the county examines the actual use of the property after identifying the minimal zoning requirements.
Right.
So the square footage that you're proposing to make available for this purpose is quite a bit smaller than what's required for exterior space. Is that right?
That's correct. But it does exceed the amount that's required by the state of Delaware for indoor play space. And I believe that number is 700 square feet, and we're at 929.
And is that a function of the number of children that it would be serving?
Yes, it is.
So what's the significance of 58 then? Is that the capped number that you're?
I am not sure where they come up with the 58 number, but that's a number that's consistent with the Georgetown parcel and also this one.
Mm-hmm. Is it your impression that the owner can't make a go of it without 58 children in the program?
I think 58 is the number that they need to have good capacity to be able to afford 4,200 square feet within a shopping center. Yes.
So if the board were to say that we'll relieve you of that obligation, but we're going to cap you at 25 children, that would be.
Yeah, I don't think it would be worth it at that point.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Those are my questions, Ms. Denny.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Townsend. So a couple of my questions you asked, but I do have some more. So where it says indoor gym area, can you tell me how that's outfitted?
I think I'll defer to the Love Drives owner on that question, Ms. Denny.
Okay. How many? And so, essentially, if you're saying 58 kids, then you're having maybe 10 children per classroom?
I think that's about right, but we would ask
Well, okay, we'll ask
them
them.
also.
So to be perfectly honest, I'm just going to begin this by telling you I don't see this as a safe place for children in light of the fueling station. And I definitely think that in the event that for some reason this is allowed, that you would need to expend the money to put up the fencing and whatever's necessary, so that in the event of some type of an emergency, that you can exit the building safely and away from what could be a disaster of a gas station, and B, loading docks and all those other things. I mean, to me, this is more than just, oh, gee, can we have our daycare? I see huge safety issues. And I also feel strongly about the fact that, number one, I'll have to ask the owner, I'm sure, what the ages are, and I do know the state of Delaware Department of Education comes into play, but I didn't know that they did that for all ages in a daycare. So, and I guess those two are questions I'm going to have to ask the owner.
Yeah, I think first off, the daycare use is an approved use within the BG zone, which is where we are. So we're not really talking about
the use. You're not talking about whether it's allowed. You're talking about
correct.
Will we give variances to our code in order to allow you to do that? And again, my job is to protect our code, which is very stringent. And I think Kent County's always been a little bit proud of how we handle things. So it is our code, and we're here to try and protect that code. We make variances when we have when necessary, if we feel that it meets some of the criteria of safety, etc. So I do understand what you're saying. And I guess most of my questions then will go to the owner of the daycare. Anybody else have any questions?
Yes, I have a question. If you look at the current exhibit that's up now and the grass area, I guess the orientation might be west.
Yeah, I thought I knew somebody would bring that up. That large area up in front of where the suite is, that's currently unoccupied, that's actually a phase 3 area of the shopping center development where there's actually a fast food planned on the original site plan for that. Yeah, there you go. Thank you, Jamie, for that area. Up along Route 13, Green Diamond Builders, there's a retail building, plus we just did the new grill and chill, DQ Grill and Chill up front. So that whole area up front is taken up. But yes, that large grass area would be perfect for the open area. But I believe that that for future use, if they come in with, I'd hate to have them spend money to establish the play area in that area, and then someone like Starbucks or something comes in there to fill that space, then have to relocate that play area. That would be double the expense.
You commented earlier about developing an area. Can you point out in respect to that diagram what that area was? Because you talked about a substantial cost to do that. I'm not sure if looking at this.
In that grass area, that's right behind Redner's. I've got a cost estimate that was in that handout that I gave you. It's the last page. And we're talking about the certified mulch that would have to go down, fencing that would have to go around that area, signage to everyone to be able to steer clear of the area. The one estimate I did was actually for if it was in the pave area, we'd have to actually remove paving. But then there's the playground equipment, which is around $25,000. And then jersey barriers to put up around the fencing also, because I think if it's in a area like this along a parking lot, I think it should be protected. I'm not sure bollards would really do it. I'd prefer to go with something more heavy like a jersey barrier around them. So I think that's what that's where we end up getting upwards of $50,000, or if it's on pave, $78,000.
One final question. That 929 square foot indoor gym play area, who came up with that particular figure, that square footage is?
I think it was just how they determined the square footage. The 700 square feet is the minimum determined by the state of Delaware. And that was just after they did all the partition walls, because I think the way everything was laid out, it falls along the existing column lines that are there because they're taking up 3 suites. So you've got the classrooms on either side of a column line, and then the play area is the open area of what would have been the middle suite of the 3. So I think that's really what drove that 929 square feet. So you have a front desk and an office area you can see in that suite, and then the bathrooms in the rear. So as long as we got over that 700 square feet, I think that's what they're looking at.
I think if you take either number, the Kent County Department of Education, 35 square feet per child for indoor, or the 50 square foot outdoor number times 58 kids, to me, that 929 is far too short.
Let me see.
Yeah, I agree. The Department of Education letter here says 700 minimum, but then it says in addition to the 35 square feet per child requirement. So is that?
I think 35 square feet per child is for the overall 4,200 square foot. Yes, yes. But the play space is separate from that. 700 square feet of open space.
For the record, I did place a call to the author of the letter that we received today, and who was working from home, and the staff told me she definitely would get back to me. I explained we had a meeting tonight. So because I have that same line of questioning based on what was said in the letter. So, and again, to me, and we have more questions to ask when the owner of the daycare, I guess, gets up there. But I feel I have the same questions that both of you gentlemen have.
Yeah, he's much
And
better
I
versed
still
in
have-
those rules. So I believe he would have the exact answer for what you're looking for.
Okay. So does anybody else have more questions of Mr. Lieberman? Because I just have just a couple more.
You go ahead, Ms. Denny. I have one or two after you're done.
Okay, so when we're looking at the bird's eye view of the shopping center, and you are speaking of the grass area that is behind Redner's, I, in my mind, feel quite certain that it is not the drainage area, that it is just what appears to be an empty building lot. Is that so?
No, actually, all those houses are built in that area. Ms. Denny, the pond area, the area I'm talking about is right adjacent to the drive aisle that goes behind Redner's. It is above the drainage area, or the pond that's back there, so it would not be inundated, if that's a concern of yours.
And so how wide would the area that would be allotted? I'm realizing that there's a storm that
Yeah.
Kids in Water don't
Yep.
fit. How wide is that area?
It's about 25 feet wide.
Okay, and then, of course, there would be fencing, et cetera, to
Correct.
prevent the kids. Okay. I'm just looking at my list of questions to be sure I've asked.
I have a question for
Okay,
staff.
I guess that's... Go ahead.
If they build the play center over by the drainage pond, does the shopping center owners need to come for a variance for the drainage and runoff water?
As long as they're not doing anything with the stormwater pond, they might want to reach out to KCD and make sure that they're not disturbing any of that. But we wouldn't require,
I think technically we'd be outside of what we would consider the stormwater management area because of the existing fence that goes down through there now.
I do have a question for you. On the same photograph there, the area which now includes asphalt, that is potentially an area that could be used for the play area, right behind the,
Correct.
right behind where the
We
daycare is.
could. We're over on the parking spaces within the center. So there's, well, not that area. That's the loading area for Redner's itself. Yeah, but it would be, yeah, somewhere down in that area. Yeah.
Yeah, so
We could do something like that, a couple different configurations.
and is that something that could be done? The shopping center would have to, is there a problem with, would there be a problem with using that as it exists now with the shopping center owning it? Or-
Well, with proposing it that way, we're disrupting loading space and then also potentially other tenants with the circulation back through there. So that's why we were leaning away from doing anything in that area, aside from the cost. That when we do it over top of the pave, we just have to remove the pave so that we can get down to our earth surface to come back in with certified mulch on top of that.
I'm a little concerned about, it seems like cost keeps coming up. I mean, every other daycare center I've seen, including 2 or 3 that were built freestanding in Newcastle County, which doesn't have the requirement that Kent County does, they all have very nice play areas with the mulch you're talking about and the play equipment and whatnot, and the fence around it, which they would need to have. So it seems like a lot of this about the cost is a beneficiary to the owner, but it seems like just, there's 2 or 3 spots here that could be utilized one way or another, but it's the costs that always seem to be in the way.
It's usually a pretty good factor in determining whether something can be viable for a business.
But each
Is
of the
cost.
other,
We're talking about something that's close to doubling the cost of their upfront costs.
each of
it's
the other
significant.
daycare centers in Kent County have had to bear those costs.
Depending upon how they've done the inside. Yeah, I don't think most of the daycares that have been built within Kent County are 4,200 square feet. I think they'd be smaller, but they have the larger outdoor area.
Thank you.
So I guess in keeping with your line of questioning, Mr. Crossan, I feel like there are costs and sometimes extraordinary costs to opening a business, and obviously. That sounds to me, I shouldn't say obviously, it sounds to me as though Love Drives LLC has experienced and has already, and these are questions we could ask the owner, opened similar type daycare in other counties. And so, but there are, and I realize that right now it's COVID, and there's a lot of businesses are having difficulty, but in all honesty, especially in light of the new vaccine, COVID is at some point and going to ease up somewhat, and so that is at the moment I'm not going to say short-term temporary, but it will begin to. That economy should begin to restart, and that's from everything I am reading for the Center of Disease Control and what the infectious disease experts are saying. And so I don't think that we should necessarily be just thinking, oh, because of COVID we need to do this or that. So I just kind of in keeping with your line of questioning. I mean, yes, to me there are expenses that go along with establishing a business and doing it according to the code. So, okay. So, anybody else with questions? All right. So, at that point, Mr. Lieberman, it appears as though we're done asking questions of you. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Please state your name and address for the record and allow our attorney to swear you in.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Roderick Morris. My address is 891 Windrow Way, Magnolia, Delaware, 19962.
Sir, do you swear or affirm the testimony you give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir. So,
Okay. Who wants to go first with questioning?
I have a question.
All right. Okay.
How many minutes does a child have to be in the designated outdoor play area according to the state?
they have to be provided with 30 minutes during the morning hours and 30 minutes during the afternoon hours. So an hour a day.
And if the weather doesn't permit, they're allowed to be inside, correct?
Yes.
I have a question for you, sir. The location of this does not seem ideal, other than maybe the parking for daycare. But having said that, how important is it that the daycare that you're proposing be located in this general area here, or is it really is serving Kent County, but is it serving more the northern part of Kent County, and that's why you're in this geographic area of the county?
Well, it's actually an excellent spot for us to be, as it's almost it's similar to the space that we have in Georgetown, which being in a shopping center, it gives opportunities for people that work in those areas to be able to bring their kids to a place that's close to work. There's a lot of other shopping centers that are near, a lot of other stores and businesses, so people can bring their child somewhere that is close.
So the 4,200 or whatever the square footage was is what you need for, is it 58? Is that what the number?
That's the number for our Georgetown location. The number for this location will be different. The numbers for this location are determined by the square footage divided by 35 square foot for each child. So that square footage for the play area is not included in that number. That number is for the children's classroom. So childcare licensing, the Office of Childcare Licensing will take that indoor space out, and we'll be able to, our maximum capacity will be determined by the amount of classroom space that we have for each child.
Okay, so you've got dimensions there. So based on those dimensions, how many children will be permitted in this building as it's shown right now?
It will be somewhere around that number of 58, but I'm not really sure, to be honest with you. And I'm sorry, I don't want to cut you off, but keep in mind that we do have an infant classroom, which will serve 8 children who do not go to a gym or outdoor play area.
Did you look at any other properties in the area that would suffice?
I did not, because I saw this location, and they're the same landlords as our Georgetown location, and it was the best fit for what we were trying to do at this time.
And when you did find that location, were you aware of the Kent County's?
I was not. It wasn't brought into my attention until they told me, and I was super unaware of it because that's not a licensing rule. So I didn't know that it could be another rule for another company or another organization, because the Office of Child Care Licensing actually governs the child care laws. So if they permitted an indoor play area, I assumed that it would be okay. And I know that he mentioned, and someone mentioned, it's a lot about cost, and it would put extreme hardship on our company. We are a married couple. We have 2 children. We have 3 daycares right now, All three of them are in Sussex County. And although cost is a factor for me, it's not a major factor. The major factor for me is the safety of having to take children to another area. And not only that, times have changed, and people with that daycare being located where it is, it's not necessarily safe to take kids out in a play area where people can see them, strangers can see them, people that may be looking for them. It's all kinds of situations that happen in childcare where it's not necessarily safe to let the children leave the building. So in our Georgetown location, that building is required to be locked. It's locked all day. We have security doors, which we'll have in this location. All of those doors will be locked. Those children will come in, they'll play. They will not all be in the gym at the same time. Each class has their own designated time where they go to the gym. The maximum size class that we'll have for this building will be 12 children in one class. So it would only be 12 children in that gym space at one time. Each class has their own gym time. So it's better for us as a company, and I feel safer and I feel the most comfortable when the children can come, be locked in with their teachers who love them, and be in that building all day without being seen by the public. Because of course we can do fencing, we can do all of those kinds of things, but it's not hard to get over a 6-foot fence if you want a child. And it hasn't happened, but we can't say that it won't happen. And there have been very extreme situations where fathers or mothers or relatives were not supposed to be in contact with the kids, and we have to keep those doors locked and we have to keep those kids safe. So if we have to take the kids outside and someone wants to get them over a fence, most of our teachers are women, and I'm not saying that women can't fight, they can, I know. However, just for a safety aspect, I just would feel more safe with the indoor play area variance being given, because the children can get all their gross motor activities out. They can play basketball, they can run, they can jump, they can do all of those things inside. And of course, we will always encourage parents, take your kids outside when you get home if you can.
Okay, anybody else? Questions?
Yes. Do you know at this point what the maximum number would be? This might be redundant. You may have already answered it. In that indoor gym area at any one time. Do you have any idea at this point?
Would take the 929 and divide that by 35, whatever that is. But then that's also, depends on how many teachers you have in that room. So even whatever the number is that you get, if there's a 2-year-old, the ratios change according to the child's age. So I can't have 58 2-year-olds in that room, even if that number is 58. I can still only have 20 with 2 teachers. So the maximum capacity changes per age. It's so many things that changes it, or can change it, rather.
Anybody else?
Fred Townsend, I have a question.
Okay. Go ahead.
Mr. Morris, you see there are 2 classrooms on the right-hand side as I look at the picture. There are 4 on the one side and 2 on the other?
Yes.
The rear one on the side with 2, what would be the consequences for you, I guess they're economic, of removing those walls and devoting that to indoor space and adding that to your square footage for the gym?
That would reduce the amount of kids that we can have dramatically.
Do you know how dramatically?
It would be those 2 numbers divided by 35.
Somebody needs to do the math.
I'm so sorry.
It's about 20 students.
Yes.
20 fewer students?
20 fewer students, yeah. Eliminate those 2 classrooms on the right-hand side.
No, you said 1 class.
Well, yeah, it's
One
about
room.
10 students if you eliminate.
Well, if you just eliminate one of them, then you put a spot where the teachers can't see the kids. So if you put that corner there, if you take away one of the classrooms, then there's a supervision problem with licensing. So right now, with the square, in the middle, the teacher can stand in any point of that area and see all the children. If you eliminate one of those classrooms and make that wall go like that way, then you have a supervision problem. Then you run the risk of licensing coming in and saying you can't even have the daycare here because you have supervision problems. So the rectangle situation is the best situation.
I'm not sure I understand that, but at any rate, Mr. Townsend, you had a line of questions in mind, so if you want to continue.
Actually, that was it. I anticipated the answer would have an economic impact on the applicant in that he would be reduced in the number of students his daycare could accommodate if he were to add additional space. I guess along the same lines then, generally speaking, maybe this is a question for planning, is the 900 square feet there roughly equivalent to like a two-car garage?
A two-car garage is around 500-ish square feet.
Is that right? Okay. All right. Thank you. That's all I have, Ms. Dent.
Okay. Thank you. So now it's my turn. So can you just kind of take me through a day? Now, I realize one group is infants, 8 infants. So other than the infants, kind of take me through the day. The kids arrive in the morning.
Okay.
What time do you open?
So we open at 7, we close at 5:30. Typical day consists of the children arriving somewhere between 7 and 8. They all get there, they go to their classrooms. Right now, everything is different because COVID. Right now, we have to have staff that can take the kids to their classroom. Take the kids to their classroom. They, right now, they have what we like to call free play, which is where they can play within all the centers of the room. Delaware Stars and Office of Child Care Licensing requires a certain amount of time that children have access to everything in their room. So the different areas, we have reading area, we have dramatic play, we have blocks, we have math, we have science, we have, I may be missing some, and we have, well, of course, we have where they can eat, so they play basically all day. We have a philosophy at our daycare that children learn through play. So while they're playing, our teachers are interacting with them, showing them their colors and all the things that they need for whatever developmental place they are or for their age. So they play. We provide lunch. They have bathroom breaks. They have a circle time or learning time, which we call it. Then in the morning, they go to the gym area for 30 minutes. We have lunch. They have a nap, which is normally around 2 hours. They wake up from nap and they either go to the gym or they go back into play area so that they can get the rest of their time required by the Office of Child Care Licensing. And then at this point, we're either going back to the gym or kids are being picked up. That's pretty much our typical day.
Okay, thank you. So they eat in the classroom, you provide the meals, and where are the meals prepared or stored until it's time for them to be given to the children? Because I don't see a kitchen area.
There is a kitchen area. That little space over there behind the 2 classrooms would be the small kitchenette area. We have a cook that comes in and he prepares the food and they distribute the food. That is actually a little bit more right than that space right there is the kitchenette. They provide all the food and they give it to the children. And they all eat in their classrooms.
Mm-hmm. So essentially, they come into the building, go into their classroom, and pretty much, except for 2 30-minute periods in this inside gym area, they're in one classroom, and there are 10, other than infants, there are 10 students in a classroom.
For the most part. When you get to older children, the ratios change. I don't know them off the top of my head, but I think the largest group size is 15 with school agers with one teacher.
Okay, so my next question, prior to what you just said, was going to be, so if this group did decide for some reason to allow this to happen, and we set a condition that a maximum of 10 children per classroom, that would work for you?
I would have to respectfully ask why the number 10 for each classroom. 'Cause I'm not understanding
Well,
why.
because you're telling us that there's going to be 58 to 60 kids, and so if so, that would be a way of limiting that to what your testimony is.
Well, I did make mention that the 58 number, and I'm sorry that I'm not prepared as far as the numbers for this daycare, but the number 58 came from the other daycare. We would abide by the Office of Child Care Licensing ratios. Whatever they were, we have to abide by those, and they govern us heavily. They monitor us heavily.
Miss Denny, based
Okay,
off
so
of,
go ahead.
I did the math really quick, and based off the square footage of the classrooms per the 35 foot, it's like 60.24.
60.24 for the total space or per classroom? You must be saying the total
60, it's like roughly 60 children per the classrooms in the building.
Okay. So all of the classrooms, there could be 60, and of course there's 6 classrooms, one which we know can only have 8 because it's a nursery. So essentially, that is the maximum, which would be 58 to 50, well, yes, roughly. So, okay. All right, thank you for doing that because that's helpful to me. So again, I feel very strongly that number one, I come from a medical background, so forgive me, but to bring the children in and pretty much secure them, I realize that there's 2 adults there and that they will have bathroom time as well, but to bring them in and put them in a class and have them in a classroom and have like 2 30-minute periods of free play and no outside, and encouraging parents when they are at home to let them outside is all well and good, but there's really no vitamin D in this process. And the other thing is, can you help me understand what this indoor gym looks like?
So our Georgetown indoor gym has basketball courts. It has balls. It has I'm trying to think of everything it has. It has climbing equipment. We have a slide in there and a whole lot of different like outdoor toys. We have jump ropes. We have frisbees. We have footballs, baseball. Everything that you can have outside, okay, we have in the gym.
So you can play baseball. The kids can play baseball in this area?
Yes.
Okay. And this equipment is available to every class all day?
Yes.
Or is it one of those some days the hoops are down and some days the hoops are up and some days, and how does that work?
No, this is every day they have to go to the gym. This is pretty much the setup of every daycare. As far as like their play in time and their learning time, most daycares in Delaware operate the same way. We don't operate any different except for the fact we just don't go outside to a play area that's outside.
Mr. Morris, I think Ms. Denny was asking whether the different available activities in that area are all available all the time, or
they are.
whether. Okay.
Yes, I'm sorry. They are available every single day unless they break them, and we have to buy them again.
Thank you, Mr. Townsend. Okay, I just want to be sure that I've asked all my questions. So you really haven't explored to see if there's other areas where you can have a daycare that has an outside play area. You just haven't explored that?
No, I have, but this will be the quickest daycare that we can get up there. With schools being closed, there's a great need for daycares to open up. A lot of daycares are full, and people are looking for places to take their kids, and this one will get us up and running the quickest. And it was already zoned for daycare, so I had no idea about that. So I did look into this. We did do research on this daycare, and it was approved for a daycare, so we just thought it was great.
Yeah, again, I'm only one person here on this board, but kids and gasoline don't mix to me, number one. And as far as the parking, to the best of my knowledge, that parking for daycare is a little less restrictive in number because typically you have employees, but then it tends to be a drop-off pickup situation, and so the perfect parking and all that isn't as much of a concern to me as the health and safety of children. And so again, that's why I'm boring you with all these questions, and because this just doesn't seem, even if you had to have it inside, it just does not seem to me to be the right place. But that's not my decisions to make. We have a whole panel who votes. So at any rate, does anybody else have any other questions?
One more from me.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm just reading the letter from the state again, and it says, when a licensee cannot meet the outdoor space requirements, they shall provide the minimum 700 square feet. Well, in this case, you could supply an outdoor space right adjacent to the building, which is in the parking lot area, which you would have to obviously pull up asphalt to do, but there would be a place available. Is that correct?
In my opinion, if I'm looking at the safety of the kids, no. I'm still saying no. It's not an option for us to do that.
To take that a little further, so it would not become an option if this application were denied?
No, because of the location, I would say, as the owner.
So then you would find a different place to accommodate what is, I think, is as you said, it's nice that you are investing in daycare, which many parents need. So if this didn't go through, then your option would be not to do a playscape or something outside, but then to look for another site.
Yes, I would probably go back to Sussex County.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? Any questions?
Yes. What is the extent of your investment at this time in regards to this facility?
At this time, it's just been a lot of legwork and paperwork, so we're not fully invested. We're fully invested emotionally because we want the space, because it's a great space for daycare. I mean, we've done it in Georgetown, and the gas station is not near the daycare. It's no different than a parent taking their kids into any of the other stores that are near this daycare. If you're going to take your kid in daycare, you're going to make sure that they're safe, and you're going to get them into the Redner's, or you're going to get them into that little toy store right to the left of the daycare, and they're going to be safe. The gas station will not be an issue. It would be more of an issue if we have to take them outside. It would be an increased issue then.
And what is the term of the lease that you would have with this once you outfit the building?
3 years.
Anybody else?
Ms. Denny, I'll ask one more question. It's Fred. I think you indicated, Mr. Morris, that you have multiple daycares, right?
Yes.
And you have one in Georgetown that would be similar to this operation, and then you have 3 others in Sussex County
I have one in Georgetown and 2 others.
And 2 others,
Mm-hmm.
and then those others, not the one in Georgetown, but those others do have outdoor play areas that are
but
compliant.
They're also large family daycares, and so that means they're in homes that we turn into daycares that can only have 12 children. So they do have space because they were homes.
I see.
So we do have outdoor
Okay.
play areas for those.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yes, one last thing. The Georgetown site mimics this proposed site.
Pretty much, pretty close.
And let me make sure I understand you correctly. You did say earlier that developing an outside play area is not an option.
For me, it's not, because I just feel like it's a safety issue. And because of the times we're living in, I'm going to put the safety of the children first. And I just feel like with cars and just random people, it's just not an option for me in my business.
But it is in these. It is so in the private daycares that you have made commercial.
Sorry, I don't understand.
It is in those. So your testimony, and maybe I misunderstood. If I do, I apologize. But you said that in Sussex County that you have one that really mimics this one, and then you said you had, I believe it was 2 others that were at one time, family daycares, large family daycares, and that they do have outside accommodations for.
Yes.
play.
So the one in Georgetown is a daycare center, and it's pretty close, almost identical to this one. The other 2 are large family daycares that only house 12 kids, and they were previously homes, so they had the yard space for outdoor play areas, and we do take advantage of the outdoor play areas in those spaces. It's a lot safer, it's a lot less people, there's not a lot of stuff going on, so it's more safe.
Well, and frankly, I think you hit the nail on the head for me because, being in the middle of a large shopping center, even though I would assume that if you had outdoor facility, it would be behind, with access behind. But, sure. I mean, I could see that where you might feel that there was a security issue in this shopping center environment. But that's just me. So anybody else going once, going twice?
How many full-time employees would you have?
In Georgetown, we have 13. 13 teachers, 1 cook, and 1 director, so 15, I'm sorry.
And Mr. Morris, you walked up to the podium and began getting peppered with questions. Did you have anything that you haven't said that you'd like to say before you take a seat?
No. I thank you guys for the opportunity to hear this.
Okay, good.
Thank you, Mr. Townsend. Okay, well then, thank you, Mr. Morris.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Are there any additional persons in favor of the application? Is there anyone on the line? Please press *1 to unmute your phone. Ma'am, are you in favor? Okay, if you want to state your name and your address for the record and allow our attorney to swear you in.
I'm a little shorter than the last 2 speakers. My name is Marissa Mullins. My address is 1406 Sudlersville Road, Sudlersville, Maryland.
Ma'am, do you swear or affirm the testimony you give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, please proceed.
Thank you. So I do consulting work not only for the owner of this property, S&R, but that's the affiliate of the landlord in Georgetown, where Love Drives has their large commercial practice in Sussex County. But I worked to develop the Georgetown site for the original owner, Dr. Pam Morris, I believe her last name was, who was a child psychiatrist who had several daycare operations. And the applicants here, who would be the owner of the proposed center, were not the original builders of the Georgetown site. They inherited that when Dr. Pam could no longer run the operations and care for her mother, who was dying at the time. So the tenants came in and acquired the Georgetown practice, took it to capacity, and really thrived in that location. And yes, the indoor play area was a little bit foreign to the owners of the shopping center as well. We had just never heard of it. But they seemed to do really well and thrive there, and then sought to duplicate this in Kent County. But I wanted to address two items. I was trying to take notes that I don't think were answered with the peppering of the questions by the last speaker. The first is, as it relates to the architectural design, this is conceptual. It would still have to be approved not only by normal channels in terms of doing a fit out in any commercial building, but also by the state. And one of the things that when we met on site and we looked at it as a potential retrofit to accommodate this use was incorporation of transom glass and other ways to let maximum sunlight into these areas. And that was done in the Georgetown location, so that there are transom windows, there's maximum sunlight, and ways to bring that outdoor feel into these areas because it is enclosed for safety. So I just wanted to point that out because I don't know who's on the phone, but just as they pointed out, we thought that that was important. So that's part of the design. It's not reflected on what you see in front of you, but that is in the renovation plan, and that does exist in Georgetown. And we think that it's made a big difference in terms of how that space looks and feels. The other piece that I just wanted to address is that they said that they had a 3-year lease. There are several options for renewal in that lease. So we wouldn't be asking them to commit their time and their resources and then only have 3 years in which to build a business and serve the community, and then you're out, you have to look for a new space. They would have multiple renewals, which I think add up to a minimum of 9 years. So we did try to offer a way for them to protect their long-term investment in this lease space, because it's a big investment. I think those were the only two things that I had in my notes that weren't addressed. The third is that we had looked at several other spaces for this client on the real estate side. I have my commercial license locally with R&R Commercial Realty, and there are just very few sites in general in the current real estate market that are of this size that have the interior components, specifically plumbing, to accommodate that use. And so because this used to be a gym and yoga studio, the plumbing for the kitchen is there. The plumbing for the child toilet rooms is existing. The staff and the handicapped, high-low fountains, all of those things exist. And so I think if, and I can't speak to them, but they did not do the fit out in Georgetown as the owner operators. They did not foot that bill. So to foot the bill to build something commercially from scratch is a very, very high investment. It would be somewhere between probably $100 and $150 per square foot is what the tenant put in the Georgetown location to build this. So it is significant from scratch. And there's not anything similar in all of Kent County that meets everything that they would be looking for to accommodate 55 to 60 children. That was all that I had.
Thank you, Ms. Mullen. Does anybody have any questions?
Yes. Yes, I do. You commented on the infrastructure of I believe, the Georgetown site.
Correct.
Do you have any knowledge of the HVAC system at the Kent County site?
Sure. So there are multiple rooftop units that serve that shopping center. This particular space has at least 2 large commercial HVAC units that sit up on the roof. The landlord would warrant and maintain those units so that it would be less of a cost burden on the daycare providers. They then have zones inside the space, VAV, different thermostats and zones that could be controlled. So it's not just one unit or one zone for the whole space. The other thing that makes this very unique is that when the yoga studio was in, because they wanted to do hot yoga and, I don't know, aerobic yoga, different types, they added in additional infrastructure to control the lighting and the heat in each of those rooms. I don't do yoga, so I don't really know exactly what they were trying to achieve, but there's additional HVAC capacity. So again, the fact that that's sitting there was just perfect for the daycare use because you could adjust it.
I just was asking because I'm sitting here just thinking about the air quality in that building if they're there for that long and the number of kids. That's why I asked about the infrastructure.
Okay, so your concern would be circulation or just general air quality?
How often the filtering would be addressed
So
to filter
there's-
that air quality?
Correct.
I just was concerned if we're going to keep them cooped up in that building.
Exactly, and to your point, we did address that in the lease, and for the owner-operators of the daycare, they had a similar concern about the HVAC and the maintenance. So what the landlord agreed to do was warrant the HVAC system, and then also, as a part of being in the shopping center, there's that quarterly maintenance to ensure that the filters are changed on a more regular basis and you're having the best possible air quality. And then because there are the multiple zones, there is a higher rate of exchange for the air than versus if you were in a standalone house, for example, that had one HVAC system, you're solely dependent on those zones and that airflow. Here you have at least 2 units and I think 4 zones. So you have a much greater rate of exchange and refresh. But to follow up on that, I think also in this system, and we could certainly follow up if a variance was granted, I think there's also a way to do what's called a continual exhaust. I did a pediatric space for a group called Beacon Pediatrics on the BB Health campus. And we did, for some of their larger exam rooms, it's a continual exhaust. They were more concerned about smell, to be honest, with the infants than the air exchange, but that is a modification that can be made on a commercial VAV system. It cannot be done as easily on a residential unit, but that would be available to the daycare operators to install that to have even greater continual exhaust.
Okay, anybody else?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Is there anyone else in favor of this application? Is there anyone in opposition of this application? If there's anyone on the phone line, please press star 1 if you are in opposition of this application. Okay, seeing no one, the public hearing for application A-20-40 is now closed.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, the next application is A-20-42, and I believe the representatives of this project are online. Could you hit star 1 to unmute and let us know you're both aboard, please?
Hello, my name is Mark Pryor. I am present.
Mark Dunkel,
Hello, my name.
attorney representing the applicant, is also present by phone.
Great, thank you. After we introduce the project, the variance request, we'll ask you to testimony at the end, please, after our attorney swears you in. Thank you. A20-42 is Mark Pryor, who is seeking a variance from the required 50-foot setback from a residential property line to operate an automobile repair business. The property is located on the south side of Willow Grove Road, 40 feet east of Calmarsh Creek Road, west of Iola. It's in Levy Court District, the 6th Levy Court District, and it's zoned BG. You'll see in Exhibit B here, there is an existing building. That is where the auto repair business will be. And you'll note, oh, okay, thank you. And you'll notice that on the one side near the residential side, it's 25.2 feet away, and from the rear, it's 40.2, as opposed to the required 50 feet. This is a photograph of the front of the proposed auto repair building. This is looking east down Route 10, and this is looking west down Route 10. You can see the residence next door. And this is a photograph showing the residential area, the garage next door, and the proximity of the proposed auto repair business. And again, this is another photograph showing the relationship between the residential property and the proposed auto repair business building. This is an aerial photograph, and this is a higher elevation aerial photograph. Okay, right now, at this point, we'll take testimony of the applicant in favor of the application. I don't know if Mr. Dunkel or Mr. Pryor want to speak first. Please push *1, whoever wants to go first, to unmute. And we'll have our attorney swear you in.
I believe Mr. Dunkel should go first.
Yeah. Can you hear me? This is Mark Dunkel.
We can, Mr. Dunkel, and you can proceed when you're ready. We're not going to swear you in, but we will swear in your witness.
Understand, Mark Dunkel with the law firm of Parkowski, Durkin, Swayze, for the record, 19354 State Miller Road, Rehoboth Beach, Delaware. And I will keep my remarks, I'm sure you'll be happy, very brief. The applicant adopts all of the findings of the staff report and the staff's recommendation. The staff has gone through the analysis of the 1 through 4 quick check test and your statute, and found that the request does qualify under those tests. I know that you're all familiar with the report, so I wouldn't go through the whole report, but a couple clarifications and a bit of background. As the staff report indicates, the building here was rezoned in 1984 for automobile repair for BG, and automobile repair was conducted for many years with no complaints. The residential building that was shown in the photographs, the brick house, that's also the applicant's home. So the applicant, Mark Pryor, is the adjacent residential property owner on two sides of the lot that has the garage. And the two variances requested are from Mr. Pryor's own property line. So, and they are the minimal distance that's required, that's needed, the 24.8 feet and the 9.8 feet for the use. So other than that, you know, the staff report excellently summarizes the quick check analysis and the facts that would support the granting of the variance. There would be no detriment to any of the neighbors. The hardship or the exceptional practical difficulty here is if we apply the setbacks to the existing building, the building would have to be demolished. And then a new building would have to be built. So that's really all that I wanted to put forward. Again, we do adopt the staff recommendation report as our presentation, and Mr. Pryor will also say that he adopts that as his testimony, but he also, of course, wants to say a few words to the Board of Adjustment, and of course, we are here to answer any questions. That's all that I have.
Thank you. Do any members have any questions for Mr. Dunkel? Well, it sounds like you're off the hook.
Thank you, Chair Denny.
Okay, at this point, if no one has any more questions for Mr. Dunkel, if we could have Mr. Pryor unmute your line and give testimony after our attorney swears you in, please.
Absolutely. I'm present and ready.
Name and address, please.
My name is Mark Allen Pryor. My address is 5462 Willow Grove Road, Camden, Delaware, 19934.
Sir, do you swear or affirm the testimony you give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, you can proceed with your testimony.
No, absolutely. So I agree, absolutely. I've read the entire staff report, and I think they did a very good job, as did Mr. Dunkel. And I wanted to bring out a few points, especially from the pictures. I actually don't believe that you can see my home from almost any of the pictures. The building that you see right there, this is a middle garage. There we are. I'm sorry, you guys are doing a great job. The building that you see there is a completely separate middle garage. So my residence that my family and I live in is still to the right of this. There isn't another additional building. So we honestly barely see the shop in our daily in and out. Again, both sides of the property are mine. And I believe it was summed up in the staff response, is that Mr. Alessandro inadvertently created the current practical difficulty of the garage not meeting the 50-foot residential setback. I spoke with Mr. Alessandro quite extensively before purchasing the property. And he was under the impression, and I was under the impression when we purchased it, that that it would be able to be used for this. This is actually, it was a very large surprise when I went to go get an additional address and try to put a completely separate electric service in, and started this process. I believe that was back in June or July. And I've been on the phone consistently with Mr. Barry from your office, and he has done a fantastic job walking me through, because I do not know any of this terminology, and he really did lay it out for me perfectly. So I really do appreciate it. And I believe that's all I have. Oh, I have spoken to 4 of my neighbors, and I believe the most that we can consider of neighbors that I have is 6 or 7. And all of them supported this. 3 or 4 of them were given the information. I'm not sure if any of them have logged in. So I have spoken to all of my neighbors, and I have not received any negative feedback from the ones that I spoke to. I'm sorry, I did not speak to 2. So, and I believe that's all I have. Thank you for your time tonight.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions of Mr. Pryor?
Yes. Yes, I have a question. What is the distance, if you can estimate, of the closest neighbor to you?
I believe the closest neighbor to me would be Catty Corner, and that would be the new Sugar Mama Seafood, which used to be the old Petersburg produce stand. They have fantastic seafood, by the way. And that is probably from the shop, I would say 200 yards.
That's not a residence.
So 2 football fields. As you can tell, directly across the street, it is farmland. We actually know the family that owns that. To my right is farmland, and the wooded area behind the shop is part of my parcel. There is absolutely no plan in any time in the future to sell off any portion of this property, and it is our intention to live here and remain a part of this community. So it's not like we're going to be burdening anyone else with having a shop here. And due to the fact that my family does live here, we're fairly stringent on, you know, how the place is kept, the noise. We do live here. And we like it here, by the way. It's very nice to live out here.
Thank you.
Did that answer your question fully?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pryor. Anybody else?
Yeah, this is Eric Crossan. I have one question for you. It looks like it's a well-maintained property, what it looked like back in the day when it was a repair shop before. And the fact that you do live right next door or one house down, I think will make a difference. I was reading somewhere in the staff report, I'm not sure if it's necessary or an obligation, but are you planning on putting any kind of fencing up at all? You know, when usually in an auto repair facility, some people might not pay their bills. Sometimes you have a car that's just sitting around for parts or whatever. So it sounds like you're not that kind of person that's going to let that happen. But is there anything you need to do there to kind of block the view from all the people who are coming down the road right adjacent that look straight into your, you know, that particular part of the property?
Absolutely. It's a fantastic question. It has been addressed, and I do have 3 quotes already for fencing. We are waiting on the variance and the inspections for the certificate of occupancy to move forward with that. So there will be a fence that goes all the way around, and I would be a stickler on making sure that it wasn't an eyesore from my side of the property and the front of the property. The backside does have a natural hedge line, but we'll still be putting a fence all the way around anyway.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Looks like you're done, Mr. Pryor. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you very
Pryor.
much. We appreciate your time.
Thank you again, Mr. Pryor. At this time, I would ask if anyone in the room here would like to give testimony in favor of this application. Okay, I don't see anyone. Is there anyone on the phone line who would like to give testimony in favor of this application? Please push *1 to unmute. Okay, Mark tells me there's no one on the line who would like to give testimony in favor. At this time, is there anyone in the room who would like to give testimony in opposition to this variance request? I don't see anyone. How about on the telephone line? Is there anyone on the line? Mark says no. Okay, it appears that there's no one else who wants to give testimony on this particular variance request. So at this time, the variance request for A2042, the public hearing, is now closed.
Thank you very much.
Next, we have application A-20-43, John P. and Janelle Foster. Is anyone present for the application? Thank you, ma'am. Okay, so the Fosters are seeking a variance from the 35% maximum impervious surface coverage to construct an in-ground pool with the concrete surround. You will see that they are in the Levy Court First District, and they are located on the east side of Southern Boulevard, 450 feet north of Sunnyside Road, being lot 97 of Southern View, west of Smyrna. They have pulled a permit for the in-ground pool, and now they are looking to install a concrete surround around the pool. They have a lot area of 12,059 square feet. The maximum impervious coverage of 35% would allow them 4,221 square feet. Their existing impervious coverage is 4,158 square feet at 34.48. and they are proposing 40.29% at 4,858 square feet. You'll see the front of the home. Down the road, looking back towards Sunnyside. And this is the driveway. They had recently removed some of the driveway to get them to the current 34 approximate percent. And on the other side of the house, some of the driveway that they have removed, and the existing in-ground pool. And the area around the pool with the area. Ma'am, if you would like to come up, state your name and address for the record, and allow our attorney to swear you in.
My name is Janelle Foster. My address is 74 Southern View Drive, Smyrna, Delaware.
Mrs. Foster, do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Please proceed.
Thank you for having us today. So I'm going to go over the criteria in order to have this concrete around our pool. So I'm going to start with number 1, which is the nature of the zone where the property lies. So we are in what is zoned AC, agricultural conservation. In-ground swimming pools are permitted, and so is the applicable concrete around the pool. So we're in line with that. What we propose is also within the setbacks, which are 10 feet around. So we're not asking to push the setbacks in any way. It's actually within. Number 2, the character and uses of the immediate vicinity. So in our development, we have many homes that have in-ground pools such as ours, as well as concrete around their pools as well. And I also have with me a couple different witnesses that can attest that this is the case. We are in a single-family dwelling, and in-ground pools are the nature of what you would expect in a residential neighborhood, as well as a surround, which is required. You must have something surround your pool. There are several different options for the material that you can use. One of the materials that you can use is concrete. Another material that you can use are the pavers. I'll discuss why we prefer not to go with the pavers shortly. One reason is the cost. Also, I just want to mention that this also states that there have been no granted variances to install an in-ground pool with concrete surrounding area. But actually, in our same development, there was a house that has an in-ground pool that was granted a variance to have a house structure built over top and around their pool, as well as a 3-car garage addition, which took their coverage to 56%. So I just wanted to point that out. For number 3, the next one is whether removal of the restriction on the applicant's property will seriously affect the neighboring properties. So right now, we are at 34%. And we're asking to slightly go over to 40%. And so I can't see that a small modification would cause any type of flooding issue. We don't have any flooding issues in our neighborhood at this point. And we have, like I said, several in-ground swimming pools. We have several different surrounds in our neighborhood. We don't have any complaints to the HOA for any flooding issues. We don't have anybody that has any kind of drainage issue to my knowledge. One thing that they pointed out was that we also removed a portion, if you would slide back to the pictures of my driveway. So when I first had applied for the pool, as you can see, part of my driveway we had actually taken that up at our own expense. And if you slide to the picture of the back where the tire is, that we also removed. And we removed all of that to have a less permeable area. And that's also going to cost us an extreme additional amount, because now we're going to have to replace that area with something else because we were made to remove the asphalt. So as we can see, this is a complete eyesore. So it's not something that we're willing to leave like this. So we're going to have to replace this probably with pavers or something else that's going to be permeable, which is going to lead to probably an additional, outside of just the pool, an additional $15,000 just to have my driveway completely redone, because I would not be able to get the pool. They wouldn't let me get the pool unless I was to remove all of this driveway. So we've already bared the expense, of getting it removed. We had to pay a contractor to come out and remove it. And then once we're done with this process, we're going to have to pay another contractor to come and repair the complete eyesore. It's of my opinion that my neighbors are more concerned with the way that the driveway looks in the front than they are with if I have 700 square feet of concrete around my pool, which I have a 6-foot fence that no one can see anyway, and we have zero drainage issues in our neighborhood, so I don't think that's an issue either. Number 4, whether failure to remove the restriction will create unnecessary hardship or exceptional practical difficulty for the owner in relation to the owner's efforts to make normal improvements to the property. Economic hardship standing alone may justify granting the area of variance. So again, in order to get what the county would like us to get, which would be pavers, is over $15,000. In order for us to get the same kind of concrete will cost about $6,000. But besides that, again, I want to mention that we have to now also redo the entire driveway with pavers, because the way it is now, we can't put the asphalt back. I can't get concrete there, and obviously wood wouldn't be an option. So the only choice I have out front is to get pavers, and that's going to cost me about $15,000. So I think to have to spend $15,000 out front and then have to spend a whole lot more to get pavers around the pool is an undue burden that really doesn't affect anybody. And I'm not asking for a major difference. I'm asking for a 5% increase that's going to save me tons of money.
Okay,
That's all I
does
have.
anyone, any questions for Mrs. Foster?
Yes, I have one. You do understand, according to the staff's response, there is no unique aspect about this particular parcel that would qualify it having an exceptional practical difficulty.
I'm sorry.
There's nothing unique about your particular parcel that qualifies you to say you have an exceptional practical difficulty. Do you understand that's the staff's response, part of it?
I did read the response.
Okay.
I do have a question for you.
So, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, when you originally went to pull a permit for your pool, at that time, were you planning, or the company that installed the pool, were you planning on having did they design it with an apron around it?
They designed it initially with the concrete around it, and then they were told by the county that we couldn't do the concrete, and so they made us remove partial of the driveway, and then my contractor told us that they had impervious concrete. So we actually went to, we had probably about 5 or 6 different contractors come out and tell me that it was impossible to get impervious concrete in this area because there was no vendor that can do it. There were some vendors in other states like Maryland and Pennsylvania, but they didn't have the proper licenses to come here and do any type of construction. So initially, when I got the permit, I was going to try to get the impervious concrete. I had called and spoke with Jamie to find out if the impervious concrete would be fine. And so I was told that the impervious concrete would be fine, but I can't find it anywhere. So that's why we had to come back to getting regular concrete.
Anybody else?
Yes,
Mrs. Go ahead.
yes. In your testimony earlier, you had alluded to there was no flooding in the area or in your subdivision at this time.
Yes, to my knowledge.
To your knowledge, do you
Yes.
think that might be because the county is monitoring the impervious surface coverage and that's helping to keep properties from being flooded?
Well, I would say that there are several houses that have pools that have concrete around now. And so with that being said, we don't have a flooding issue with concrete around pools at this time. And we have several.
Now, do you happen to know of those additional pools with concrete, what type of square footage we're talking about compared to what you're asking us for?
I do, and they actually have, one of the houses has less and two others have more. I mean, from my eye, I didn't go out with a measuring stick and exactly measure it, but I've seen their pools, I've seen their concrete, and they have bigger pools and more concrete. And I actually asked the question on why were they allowed to have it, and I wasn't, and I was told that that it's not going to be discussed with me what other people have. I can only discuss what I have.
One last thing. Along Mr. Jenkins' question, I noticed, I did a Google map, I don't know if we have one on here or not, aerial, and it looked like right behind your property, there's a kind of a natural area, or I don't know if it's wetlands or not, but it's kind of a natural.
It's a creek.
Okay, so there's a creek, so your property does slope down?
It
to that
does.
area.
Mine slopes all the way down, so any runoff, I mean, if you can look at my pool, they sloped it at the back end of my pool so that any water slopes all the way down and it will run into the creek.
Thank you.
And my property has a natural slope anyway that goes completely down, but the way everything is sloped in my yard, all runoff would go down and then it would run off.
Okay, anybody else?
I just had one additional. Once you complete filling in the areas that you discussed with us previously, like out near the front at the driveway, do you know if your impervious surface coverage would stay the same or would it increase?
It will stay the same because pavers don't count against your impervious coverage. So when I redo my whole driveway, that won't be included because it can drain underneath the pavers. Water can drain.
You need a special paver for that.
I'm aware.
So you're saying it would go down,
It would go underneath.
but your impervious surface coverage would reduce?
No.
No, the water will not be, yeah.
The pavers are still going to count in the impervious surface coverage total?
No, they do not.
No, they won't.
Mm-mm.
They don't. Because, and the thing is that the water can seep through because they are more impervious. So, just as a note, that may or may not save you money is I know many years ago managed the town of Camden, and we used to recommend it. There is such a thing as parkable turf, which is pretty much you take concrete blocks and you lay them on with holes in them. You lay them on the side, and then the water goes through them, and then people will actually plant grass in them, and they grow together. I mean, the only difference is that you have more grass to mow. But just as a maybe perhaps less expensive suggestion. So at this point, in order to try and cooperate, you've removed a portion of your driveway.
Yes, I have.
And and then also in your testimony, you're saying that your property, and can we see the property line again, just for my benefit? So your property, unlike maybe the properties across the street or some of the others in your community, your property backs up to a creek which takes the drainage
Correct.
away from the property. Okay. I guess that you would understand that in the event that the pool were approved, then you're done putting anything in without taking out. I mean, if that happened to be the vote. Is that true? You agree to that?
My pool is in, do you mean the concrete around the pool? Is that the question?
Yeah, if this application happened to be approved, you would understand that whatever you do to repair the driveway is going to be impervious, and you will not add anything more. You're not going to come back and say, oh, we need a patio or any of those things. I mean, you're done. It's because you will have seriously exceeded the amount if it were to be approved.
I will not be putting in, if your question is, will I be putting in any more applications for other items that are impervious? No, I will not.
Okay, thank you. All right, anybody else have any comments or questions of Mrs. Foster? Well, it sounds like you're done. Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in favor of the application? Please state your name and address for the record and allow our attorney to swear you in.
Good evening. My name is Rodney Little, 101 Southern View Drive. Oh, you want me to?
Yeah, great. Mr. Little, do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Good evening again. I am the HOA president for Southern View Homes. I am blessed with a swimming pool myself. We are definitely, our board at the HOA is in favor of the variance that the homeowners have requested. There is no opposition on their behalf. We are in favor.
Does anybody have any questions or comments? Okay, thank you, Mr. Little.
Thank you, ma'am.
Is anyone else in favor of the application? Please state your name and address for the record and allow our attorney to swear you in.
My name is Franchot Wallace. I live at 428 Southern View Drive, resident of Southern View.
Sir, do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. I just wish to add that I've been a resident in Southern View for 10 years. Got to know my neighbors and friends and the Fosters very well. I've been in contract work for approximately 35 years. I was actually supervising the removal of the asphalt from the property based on the inspector's requirements. And I just wanted to say that I also approve of the variance because I also live across the street from a neighbor who added a additional 2-car garage as well as a pool with a addition above his pool as well. It's not a factor as far as the problem with the water. We have a very unique neighborhood where the way it was designed, we have a pond on both sides of the development. which allows for runoff. And we haven't had any issues with any kind of runoff in on our property since purchasing the property. The only issue that bothered me was the way the whole process went with in regards to the Fosters. Like I said, I've been in construction for a long time. Inspectors, came in. There was, the contractor that initially put the pool in for the Fosters. If he had came and gave the plans to the Fosters and explained to them in detail as to what was required, what type of concrete was required, what type of landscape would be required. And retrospect to the inspector, the county inspector, she wouldn't be, the Fosters wouldn't be here today. It all goes back to, very critique planning on the contractors and communication with the inspectors. But at this point, it's a done deal. So it's just something I wanted to point out to the county that, when dealing with inspectors, I've had work done to my own property, and I've dealt with inspectors in different states as well. And it's all about communication, and it's all about allowing the inspectors to communicate with not only the homeowners on a level to where they understand, but also with the contractor, and having that contractor understand that, when a resident spends this type of money, okay, adjustments in the project, doing construction can be very costly. We all know that. So, but as far as the property is concerned, I am in agreement with the variance.
Does anybody have any questions? Sounds like we don't, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in favor of the application? If there's anyone on the phone, please press *1. Is there anyone in opposition of this application? If there's anyone on the phone, please press *1. Seeing no one, the public hearing for A-20-43 is now closed.
The next application tonight is A-20-44, Sapora Wifu and Famata Perry. Do we have someone here tonight to represent this application? Oh, I see you behind the podium. Thank you. When the time comes, we'll call you up to give testimony. So they're seeking a variance from the required 25-foot rear setback to construct a 3-season room. The property is located on the north side of Peyton Street, approximately 105 feet west of Kentland Avenue, being Lot 106 of St. John's Commons, south of Dover. It's in Levy Court District 2, and it is zoned RS1. As you can see from Exhibit B here, this is the after the fact request. This has already been built, as you'll see in the pictures. Previously, there was a deck there, and they have built the 3-season room over top of the deck. And as you can see, at this point, it does not meet the required setback. It is 14.6 feet from both the side and the rear. This is a picture of the front of the house. This is looking down the street in one direction, and this is looking down the street in the other direction. This is a view of the 3-season porch as it stands now. And this is the back of the porch, and it gives you some sense of the surrounding neighbors. And you can kind of see where the deck, the steps there from the existing deck, and that the 3-season room was built on top of it. This is another view. It shows that more clearly. This is an aerial photograph of the property. And this is the high altitude view of the same property, giving you an idea of the surrounding area and the character of the area. So at this point, if we could have you come up, anyone in speaking in favor, if you could come up and give testimony, our attorney will swear you in, please.
Hi, my name is Famata Perry. I am at 69 Peyton Street, Dover, Delaware.
Ms. Perry, do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir. Okay. So, just to state for the record, we totally take responsibility for, and we admit that this is on us because of our ignorance. We were not aware of the steps and processes you had to take to add propose a 3-season sunroom to your property. So the reason we wanted to build this sunroom, and I'll go into a little detail as I didn't for the application, is that we have an ill family member, and we did have a deck at the back of the property. However, for our ill family member, they needed somewhere to have easy access to the outside. And what I did not include in the application is that this family member is diabetic, so the weather conditions and like the outside environment can be play a huge factor in that. I don't know if any of you know about type 2 diabetes, but flies are a major concern. So the first time we decided to build something out there was actually a gazebo, which was basically was screen room. We got this from Kmart before it closed. It was on sale, and we thought that would be the best option because it's easy to just go on there, and it is about the same size of the sunroom that we built right now. So we did that. About a month later, there was a storm and it blew it away. So that was the first one. Second time, we did put another gazebo out there. However, it was not as strong because when it happened the first time, everything blew into our neighbor's backyard, and that could have caused a lot of damage, but luckily it did not, and we're very grateful for that. And the second time, we did not put something as heavy or strong or big, but that also went away with the storms and wind. So fast forward a year and a half, 2 years later, we decided that it would be best if we could build something more sturdy. So we contacted a family friend who is a contractor who said he could build a sunroom for us about the same size as the gazebo. And we were like, okay. However, we did not know we had to go through all these steps because, as I mentioned before, we thought it would be the same process as adding a gazebo, but it's not, and our neighbors informed us of that actually when we already had the structure up. So as you see it like this, it has not been touched since the HOA and our neighbors told us like, hey, you can't do this, you need to get, actually they told us we need to get an inspection, which I thought was all we needed to do. But when I came to the inspection office, I was told that we actually need a variance because the variance that had been on the property for the deck is different from a room. So that happened, and then we applied for this. And actually, just to mention, we did talk to our neighbors. We had a HOA meeting, and as far as we know, there are no concerns with the structure. The main problem is the sidings, which is the color of the sidings that we choose, and we have to make sure it matches the house. That was their concern. They just wanted us to have the proper paperwork and make sure it doesn't get teared down after we put it up there, because then that would be a huge loss to us. And as far as costs, so far it's been like $4,000. So yeah, but any questions you guys have or anything I did not go over, I can answer. I see there's a couple of things in the report here, so if you guys want me to address that, I can.
Okay, so go ahead. Anybody has questions?
Yeah, actually, I've got numerous. Normally, these types of situations aren't very complicated because you're usually coming in beforehand asking about, obviously. I actually did a little drive-by the end of your street and looked down between the two sets of houses here and yours to get a better look at just what is there. Obviously, you know that the staff has recommended denial for your variance. Basically, on the four criteria that we use to grant the variances, you've kind of violated something in every one of them, basically. Some of them are almost the same, but number one, well, let me just ask you this question. The deck that you built this on, was that there when you bought the house, or did you have you built a deck since you've been there?
It was there when we bought the house.
Okay. So the contractor friend of yours, is he a licensed contractor?
Yes.
And he did not know that you needed a permit to build?
He does not do his, I don't think his contracting license is for Dover. I could be wrong.
Because you're tying into your house. You're actually tying this into your house, and you don't even know if. And the deck that it's on, you're not sure whether that will support this.
Actually, he did tell us that because we're not building a room on the ground and it's on the deck, it shouldn't matter because the deck was actually already there.
Okay, well, I think he's incorrect, but I'll let let the permitting department say that. So the other thing is, it certainly, your HOA is correct. The side, it looks terrible with the white. All your neighbors that have sunrooms or porches that comply are the color of their house. And it looks like there's some really nice houses in your area, including your house is really nice. The fact that you put this shed roof on, it looks like it came from Kmart, your addition. I mean, all your neighbors have the A's, the A frame that makes it look nice. Yours just sticks out like a sore thumb. And when you look down the row of the houses, it sticks out further, which I assume is the 10 feet difference or whatever, than all the rest. In other words, your next door neighbor and the neighbor on the other side, their additions come out, but yours just sticks out way past them. So you could be blocking their views, if it ends up being finalized. So you got a number of problems going on here, and I appreciate the fact that you take complete responsibility. But nevertheless, there's an awful lot going on that shouldn't have happened that we need to figure out.
There's a house on the backside that looks similar in this photo right here on the other side. Did you see that one when you were there?
So if looking at the existing picture, you see on the left there with Lowe's, and then you see the next property down on the right has a very similar, except they have windows in the side.
I did see that now. I did not see that prior. I was looking at the others on both sides of them and on the other side, but you're correct.
Mm-hmm. Anything else? Anybody else? So, I don't even know where to begin. So, so the purpose you're before us is because of the lack of 25 feet setback.
Right, for the room.
So, actually, just let me read this again. And it's been a long night. Just a little bit. So, as essentially, it's just you are applying just for the 25-foot rear setback, and it is 14.6.
Yes.
So, which is, I guess, you did that because it was the width of the deck.
Yes.
Okay. So, just to kind of give you a little insight to the reasoning, one is once you put a roof on something, then it becomes part of your house. It's an enclosure. And of course, if it's an open deck and your neighbor's sitting out on their open deck, they can see past your house. But once you enclose that, then they are looking into a wall, essentially. So just to give you some reasoning about why this ordinance exists. And I'm surprised to know that it was done by a contractor who did not know that he needed to pull a permit. But here it is. So what would in the event that it was allowed, and we don't know that yet, but in the event that it was, would you be able to do something to match the colors?
Yes, so sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, please answer.
Oh, so yes, actually the president of our HOA pointed us to a couple of stores, like local stores that we could check to see whether or not they will have the sidings, because we did go look to Lowe's and Home Depot for the sidings, but they don't have the colors that match ours. So we'll have to go back and find those. And if I'm not sure what the other option would be, quite honestly. So that would be some cost.
My guess is that you would be able to find it somewhere, even if you had to contact the original builder. You know, whoever built the houses probably knows the name and manufacturer and the color name and all. So, okay. So how long did you live there before you built the all seasons room?
So
Is it just
20 is actually our second year. This was our first time homeowners.
Okay.
And the first time we built the gazebo, like the screen room, was the year we moved there. So 2018.
Okay, and I think that is all of my questions, except I have one more, which is, are you, obviously the Homeowners Association complained about the color, but have any of your neighbors complained to you about the sunroom generally?
No, so like I said, we've had a HOA meeting and we discussed the whole process and the building, and it was left to the floor whether or not anybody had any objections or had anything else to comment, and nobody said anything. There were people in attendance and online. So far, we haven't heard anything else from our neighbors either. So, no.
Okay, well, that's helpful information. Anybody else?
I'd like to ask you one other question. Maybe this is for the staff or for council, I'm not sure, but if the variance was granted, the fact that it's not permitted, I assume that county inspectors come out and inspect everything. I mean, it could be a question of it's not tied into the house right underneath, it's not supported correctly, and that's a whole nother deal, right?
Yes, Mr. Carlson. Before tonight is just, of course, the variance to allow it to be, but this would be an after-the-fact permit, and the inspectors would make sure it was up to code. And if it wasn't, it would have to be changed or otherwise modified. But yes, it would have to go through the correct permitting process, of course, after the fact, to make sure it meets all the standards that would have been required if they would have come up front.
So I'm not sure maybe it says on here what the depth of your porch is, your room is. You didn't have to build it all the way out to the edge of the deck in order for your family member to come out and enjoy you could have come back some and not been half.
As far as I'm concerned, for the 25 feet variance, we would have, because initially when all of this came out and we looked at the plan, we only had like 3 feet, what's that thing called? Left to build anything on, really. And then after that, it was gonna be a problem. But again, we didn't think about any of this. We just wanted the same size as the gazebo. And
just for your information, I'm not sure about gazebos. I'm not sure, maybe the staff can answer it again, whether it's square footage or whatever. We purchased a utility building for our backyard and had to get a permit to put it there. Maybe it's because it was over a certain number of square feet. But when they came to put the building there, or in your case gazebo, they have anchors that they put down in the ground, and your gazebo wouldn't have blown away more than likely if you would have those anchors. And that's part of the reason why you get permits and inspections, is so they can check those things out. But there are ways of putting anchors and things in to hold structures down, such as your gazebo.
so what actually happened with the gazebo is that it stayed anchored in for the most part. It's just that the wind bent some of the metal, and like the top and like the middle half blew away.
Right, but you could have gotten another gazebo for a heck of a lot less than it would have cost you to put that tree.
But the fear
on.
of it happening again was what led us to the sturdy structure. Well, the room with the walls. It's harder to blow away.
Okay, anybody else? Questions or comments?
Yes, I have a question. So at this point, the room is complete.
Besides the outside, the insides, and as he mentioned, they will have to like make sure the base is steady enough. So kinda maybe, but it's up to the planning committee and the inspection office, but not really. So we still have to do a couple of things on the insides and the outside door.
You gave us a dollar value before. What was that number as far as cost for what you have in it right now?
Just for the stuff we've bought over there is $4,000.
Okay, so I have one more question. It appears as though you have some type of a chimney or stack there. Do you have a fireplace inside?
Yes, but we've never used it before.
Okay. All right. I was just checking. I mean, it appeared as though, and I just wanted to be sure. Okay. Anybody else? I hear no one, so it looks like you're excused. Thank you so very much, Mrs. Perry.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Perry. Is there anyone else in the building or in the room who would like to give testimony in favor of this application? Anyone else? Thank you, ma'am. If you could just state your name and allow our attorney to swear you in.
My name is Sapura Wolfer. I live 69 Peyton Street, Dover, 19901.
Ma'am, do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do. Yeah, concerning mostly, we never intended to build this one. It's because a gazebo, we're afraid that if we build another gazebo, it will go into the neighbor yard again, because the first time it happened, it was just gold and silver. When it flew in the woman, in the next neighbor, she called me. She went knocking at the door and told me, "You have to come outside quick. The gazebo you people mounted in the ground flew in my yard." And I'm not helping her. She is not helping me to get it out. So it was the reason why we decided to build this, to help, our sick family member. Yeah. That's it.
Still with us, Miss Denny?
Oh, did we lose her?
Can you hear us, Miss Denny?
Miss Denny, we can't hear you. Do you have your phone on mute?
Your mic's
Miss Denny, I suggest at this point, if you can hang up and call back into the conference. We do see you online, but for some reason or the other, we cannot hear you. And we will wait for you to join back in the conference.
He can hear her. Jason said he can hear her. So it's her phone. Oh, how would I tell?
Miss Denny, we still can't hear you. If you can please try to unmute your phone, or maybe try calling again.
Okay, call in. What? Is that her? There we go. Can you hear us, Miss Denny? Yeah. And that's a 1-800. She is calling.
Can you hear me?
Oh, we can. Yes, we can.
We got
Can
you
you
now.
hear me?
Yes, we got you. Can you hear us?
Hello?
Oh, she can't hear us.
Hello?
Yeah, I guess we gotta have her because it's recorded, right? She has to.
Are you muted?
She has the mute on hers, but
Yeah, but that's
the WebEx.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the WebEx. Yeah.
Yeah, she has to call in because we're, of course, recording this through the phone line.
Fortunately, she doesn't curse very often.
I'm just gonna go out on a limb here. Jason, can you hear us? Jason, can you talk back to us?
Yes, I can hear you, yes.
Okay, yep, and we hear you too, so I'm thinking
Great.
something might have happened, I guess with the lines or something.
On her end.
Yeah, and then on the phone here, I can hear Miss Denny talk when you guys were asking for her. I can hear her just fine.
But she can't hear us, apparently.
Right.
Yeah, we can hear her. So it's like she's turned the volume down on her. She could have inadvertently turned the volume down on her computer.
Hello?
Can you hear us?
We can hear you.
I can hear you. Okay, finally. I'm now on my cell phone because I have no idea what happened. But I'm here.
Okay, I think we're good.
So, okay, so at this point, we're listening to witnesses other than hearing. Are you there?
Yes.
Yes.
Hello?
Yes.
Yes.
She is done with her testimony, so I think she's ready for questions if anyone has any.
Correct.
Oh, okay, thank you. I kind of lost place. So, does anybody have any questions for the witness?
No.
Okay, doesn't sound like it. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Few. Thank you for your patience, too. Is there anyone else who would like to give testimony in favor of this application, either in the room or online? Push star 1 to unmute. It doesn't look like anyone's going to give testimony in favor. Is there anyone who would like to give testimony in opposition to this application in the room? How about on the phone lines? Anyone? Mark says no. Okay, so we have no more testimony. So at this point, application A20-44, the public hearing is now closed. Thank you.
Next, we have application A-20-45, Nick Patel. Owner of the property is Premier CFM LLC. We have our applicant in the audience tonight. We have Nick Patel on behalf of Premier CFM LLC seeking a variance from the required 25-foot front setback to construct a single-family dwelling. The current use of the property is vacant. They are proposing a single-family dwelling. It's in the 6th Levy Court District for Commissioner Howe. It's located on the south side of Pilgrim Court, 274 feet east of Plantation Drive, being Lot 48 of Plymouth Place, south of Viola. Here is the proposed plot plan for the single-family dwelling. You will see that they are requesting a 21.4 feet front setback, with the required being 25 feet. Here is the vacant lot. Looking down the cul-de-sac, on the other side, the vacant lot. And again of the vacant lot, the aerial, and the farther out aerial. Mr. Patel, if you would like to come forward, state your name and address for the record, and allow our attorney to swear you in.
Good evening, Nick Patel, 727 West Birdie Lane, Magnolia, Delaware.
Mr. Patel, do you swear or affirm the testimony you give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes. Okay, so on behalf of the owners of the lot, I believe we have two applications in front of you tonight, both addressing the same issue or same request. In the situation that they have right now, this is a subdivision that's in its first phase or closing out the first phase. There are two builders that are currently building in this subdivision, my clients being one, Carl Deputy being the other. Most of the homes, obviously the last few years, all the homes have been relatively new construction coming in the last 3 years. There's only been a handful of homes that have existed for 10 plus years. What the problems that we were facing on these two, well, this lot in particular, especially on the cul-de-sac, that it narrows the building footprint with the front yard setback, rear yard setback, and the fact that it's on the end of the cul-de-sac. So that curve kind of restricts or shrinks that building envelope in the center of the lot. Obviously, what we're trying to do was we had initially had buyers interested in this particular home, which is why we were requesting the variance. With the process that the owner had gone through to get this home approved, the developer had to approve the floor plans that the builder was bringing into the neighborhood. The current owner has 4 floor plans. 2 of them are ranch models, 1-story models, and this one and another floor plan are 2-story models. And we've seen since 2019 that the 2-story models seem to be the more popular ones, which is one of the reasons why we're requesting this. And ironically enough, the 2-story models are also the I don't know if the word is correct, but it's the narrowest. It's not. They're the shallowest of the 4 floor plans. The 2 1-story floor plans that the builder has are minimum 45 feet. The buildable area here is 38 feet deep. So those 2 floor plans were out of the question. In this situation with this floor plan, the only thing that would really encroach into the front yard setback would be the front porch. Not the main foundation of the home is within the actual 25-foot setback. So what they're requesting was relief from just for that front porch. I read the county's, suggested that obviously this application be denied on the premise that obviously we could design another home to fit that, or that the front porch can the home as it stands could be built without a roof. If you've driven through the neighborhood, I can tell you that every home in that neighborhood has an average depth of minimum 40 foot, okay, and the maximum of around 46 feet. If this was on a regular lot, that was the rectangular lot, we wouldn't have issues. We haven't had issues anywhere other than just this cul-de-sac. And as far as the front porch not having the roof over it, that, again, we're looking at it from the buyer's point of view. Most buyers that we've dealt with in the past 2 years have wanted a covered porch, mainly for, being able to do, seating or plants or whatever may be the case. We just felt that with trying to meet all the requirements to get the permits for the developer to, and then also, meet all the current setbacks and everything that's required, we felt that, asking a reprieve of, for this particular lot, I believe 3.5 feet by 9 foot was a less restrictive to go from. And we felt that obviously before we incur the cost of having to design a home, figuring out, if it's a potential attraction to any potential future buyers, we wanted to see if the variance would work. Unfortunately, since we've applied for this, all the other lots have been sold out. So we're only left with these 2 lots. This lot that we're speaking of now, and then for the next application I'll be speaking of after this. So, just kind of want to, as far as the character of the neighborhood, obviously, brand new construction, 2-story homes. There are no homes there with uncovered front porches. And what we're doing is keeping in track with what the neighborhood has actually grown over the last 3 years. And to be honest, and as this sits in a cul-de-sac, this house won't protrude further than any other home that's on that cul-de-sac. And you're talking about 3 feet over the span of the depth of 106 foot on the lot itself. It's going to be negligible, if at all noticeable. It would be very negligible in when you view it that it was actually, granted a variance. If that makes sense of what I'm trying to say there, it wouldn't stand out from any other home if the variance was granted. If that. Yep. So, any questions?
So can we go back and look at the street view of these houses? So essentially, the garage is more forward than the porch.
No, the garage does set back 2 foot behind. So in other words, the garage is set 2 foot further back than the actual front wall of the home. The porch itself is only 6 feet by 9 foot, and only 3 foot of that 6 foot would encroach into the front yard setback.
Okay.
And just as a point of reference, last not particularly with this builder, obviously, I work for a surveying company, but typically, in the last 3 years, we've actually applied for quite a few variances when it comes to lots that are on a cul-de-sac like this because of sometimes when builders go in, or when these subdivisions are designed, you put that cul-de-sac in, you've got a 50-foot radius on that cul-de-sac. The depth of the lot on each side, you can see, is 106 feet on one side, 122 on the other. But in the center, where that radius comes around, or that cul-de-sac comes around, you squeeze it. So if we were to even try to design a new house, we would have to design a house that's probably, well, inside of 38 feet deep. And that would be, in essence, if you look at it, obviously, we feel that that would be a little bit more detrimental, because all the one-story houses out there with a minimum of 40 to 45 feet, we just don't think that it would really look right. And so we just felt that, asking or requesting a variance in this situation would keep in line with everything that's been going on. And again, this problem may pop up 2 more times in this neighborhood, because there are 4 lots in the neighborhood total. The other builder owns the other 2 lots, and he has yet to build on them as well. He's saving them for last as well. It's just like we did. So there's going to be 4 lots in this neighborhood that have that same issue.
So essentially, is your testimony for this particular lot we're looking at now, what is your exceptional practical difficulty?
The biggest thing would be having to have to redesign a home.